Santi Giménez just was announced as new AC Milan player. He will wear jersey number 7, made famous by Andriy Shevchenko, 35 million euros. The reported transfer fee from Feyenoord, where Santi scored 65 goals and now makes the big jump to one of the most historic clubs at a top league like Serie A. So this is definitely big news, but we've discussed this before, Herc. The winter transfer window is always tricky.
Yeah.
Was this the right time for Santi to make the jump?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mal, because usually in the winter transfer window, it's a panic move. It's panic buy. You're trying to, Band-Aid something, cover it up. You're trying to immediate fix. We spoke about how many times can you let or watch the train go by. We saw it with Santi Giménez and Nottingham Forest. At the time, Nottingham Forest wasn't top 3 in the Premier League, Nottingham Forest, and Nottingham Forest, who was maybe going to be a relegation battling Nottingham Forest. That turns out to be a team that's up on the right now. It's a team that's flying with the 9 who did play, and it wasn't Santi Giménez, and Chris Wood, New Zealander, who's their leading goal scorer and one of the leading goal scorers in the Premier League. So you think, what could have been if it was Santi Giménez in the Premier League with a team and a coach like Nuno Espírito Santo, who's done wonders for other Mexican players like Raúl Giménez famously, who also played the 9 position.
Right.
That could have been great. You let that one go. Can you afford to let go an opportunity like a brand like AC Milan? I think we're all in agreement that you can ill afford to let that opportunity go. Regardless if this AC Milan is in 8th place or 9th place in the Serie A and their historic struggles as of late, it's still one of the most famous brands in the footballing world. The second winningest team in European football, only behind Real Madrid. It's a massive, massive move. Is it the right move for Milan, for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which is his first big bullet, his first real signing is Santiago Giménez? That remains to be seen.
Well, that's almost like every transfer, though, right?
Yeah, but in the sense that Alvaro Morata was a proven goal scorer. Maybe not proven at the most of elite levels where you could say he's going to be Real Madrid's 9, he's going to be City's 9, but he was a very competent 9. And he struggled in multiple faces or multiple sides of this Milan attack with Paulo Fonseca and now with Sergio Conceição. Can I sit here and say I feel positive about Santi Giménez and the possibility of him and what he can do at Milan with the current crop? No. But do I think it's a great move for Santi Giménez? Absolutely. Do I think it's a move with massive upside for Milan? Also absolutely.
Casey, one of the biggest concerns is with a move like this, some players need time to adapt to a very different league. Sure. The style of play at the Eredivisie is completely different to what Santi will face in Serie A. But the thing is, Casey, when you play for AC Milan, there's no time to adapt. How much pressure is that for Santi?
Well, I think there's a bit of pressure. I think Morata's failings kind of helped a little bit of that pressure because you're not replacing somebody that was great, and then you have to fill that void. You're coming in trying to just be decent. I mean, I think he's got, players around him that can get him the ball, that can have good service. I think it's just a case of how quickly can you kind of figure it out.
Right.
Because you're right. I mean, Eredivisie, when you're one of the top 3 clubs, you're going to have
chances.
50 to 60, 70% of your matches, you're going to be dominating.
Defending is optional.
Correct. Now, in Italy, they don't defend the way they used to, but you still know that you're going to have fewer opportunities, and it has to be that efficiency of the opportunities that you get. And I think, like anybody, the confidence comes in those first couple weeks. You get 2 or 3 good chances, you score 1 or 2, then everything falls into place.
Right.
You miss them, press, fans, then it's a different story. But I like the move. I like the move for him. I like the move for AC Milan. I can't believe I'm saying this. I like the move for the Mexican national team.
Oh, they desperately need
and I think it's I think all around I agree with Herc. The winter transfer is always a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
But I think this just happened to be something where it was available, and I think it would have been a move they would have looked at in the summer as well.
So if I could just quickly, I understand what you're saying about Morata's failures almost, make it so much easier for him to come in and get that opportunity. But I think it also puts even more immediate pressure on Santi Giménez, because if you go back to the last 9 who was functional with AC Milan, Olivier Giroud. And Olivier Giroud was no spring chicken. And before that, it was quite some time. They went through a string of 9s where they couldn't find that goal scorer. So, like you said, in a team like AC Milan, when the neighbor Inter Milan last season, had 19-point cushion on you, it's not about what can you do for me in the future. It's what can you do for me now.
But I think you also felt that in both Giroud and in Morata, it was a stopgap. What is Santi, 23?
Yeah.
This is something where you're going to be given a little more time because of your age as well. It's not a case where you're bringing in a 34-year-old, 35-year-old. Hey, get us some goals right now because we need it. And then
less of a shelf life.
Then if you want to go someplace else, we won't stand in your way.
Well, you said it's great news for the Mexican national team. I would add it's great news for the U.S.-Mexico rivalry, because he will join a pair of superstars that represent the U.S. men's national team in Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musa. I don't know if that's going to help or if they're going to be a source of support for Santi, just because they know each other for playing against each other at the national team level. It's not the first time that Mexico and American players are teammates in European teams. I don't know if you guys take a look. Is there one specifically that catches your eye?
Well, I think the one for me is just Fulham for so many years.
Yeah.
Always kind of was a situation where there was always a group. I mean, when I went there, it was, Brian was there, McBride, and Bocanegra was there, and then Eddie Johnson came, and then, so yeah, there was always kind of a comfortable path.
Yeah.
Of course, it makes it easier. I mean, I don't think Christian speaks Spanish. I don't think Yunus I might speak a little
Spanish. Speaks Spanish. He was in Valencia.
Santi speaks great English.
Yes.
Santi speaks.
That's not going to be a problem.
Yes, and Italian and Spanish are similar in some senses. But listen, it's an international language on the field, and they're going to understand each other. If I may, the one that I think I've enjoyed the most, and it's been recently, is Anthony Robinson and Raul Gimenez.
Yeah.
That is not a partnership, an immediate duo partnership that benefits one from the other. Like I've seen in quite some time. It's cool to see Clint Dempsey and Salcido, there. That's cool, a throwback to the past. But when you think of today and doing it at the highest of levels, I can think of a better redemption arc than Raul Gimenez and how he's doing things right now. And I can think of a better player right now, back in the Premier League, like Anthony Robinson. Only Mohamed Salah has more assists than Anthony Robinson. So both in terms of two very good people and that are easy to cheer for and just very productive
I love
players.
a good story, though, where Raul, getting his head broken and then, struggling to get back, as we can clearly all understand. And the fact that he made that move to Fulham and it took him a little while and now he's just rolling. And, as someone who played for Fulham, it's cool to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have done this, but the moment it was made official, I was picturing it. Christian Pulisic, assistant, Santiago Giménez on a consistent basis. And just that picture,
Does Santi
first of all, made me happy, number
have
one.
an American passport? Can he start winning some more games on the national team level?
No, he has an Argentinian passport, so maybe that's a different conversation. But, I don't know if this is good or if it's important, right, for the region, but the fact that you have the U.S. biggest star and maybe best player ever in Christian Pulisic.
Well on his way.
Definitely moving
on his way.
For sure.
Yeah.
Alongside who is hopefully becoming the new Mexican superstar for the rivalry, for shows like this, for shows like Ahora o Nunca. It's a dream come true.
I'll go one step further. We're going to approach a summer where Jonathan David's going to be one of the hottest transfers in world football. The man this Champions League edition has scored goals against Real Madrid, Atletico, Juventus, Liverpool, Feyenoord. He's on an absolute tear. He's going to get a massive contract somewhere. We're going to live in a world where Santi Giménez is at Milan, Christian Pulisic is at Milan. Hopefully they're both doing well. You got Anthony Robinson as one of the best backs in the Premier League. You got Alphonso Davies as one of the best backs in the Bundesliga. You're going to have Jonathan David in a big team. This is now becoming the norm where you see CONCACAF players excelling at the highest of levels. It's a wild time to be alive. I recall, you and I were speaking about this earlier, in a different facet, but think about what we had to do to watch football back in the day. And now you can get any single league you want. So if you're a Canadian, if you're a Mexican, if you're an American, and you've got somebody you idolize playing in a top league around the world, you're going to get to watch that. It's uncharted territory for CONCACAF.
And you get to watch all the leagues, all the matches, Champions League, Europa League. If you're a Premier League guy, if you're a Bundesliga guy, if you're a La Liga, and you can just pick and choose the match that you just think, oh, that looks really cool. Yeah. Oh, that fits in my time that I have to sit down and watch a game. And, I think what it's creating is, we went through a long period of time where we had a lot of players that didn't really watch the sport. Yep. They didn't love football. They just played. They loved playing, but it wasn't the culture. Yeah. And I think that is starting to change. You can now immerse yourself in the culture.
I think a big part of that, if I know we're getting off track here, but the inclusion of video games, whether it's EAFC now or FIFA
former FIFA, you were going to say FIFA. Yeah, it's fine. You can still call it FIFA. It's cool.
I was talking to a guy after a concert, lead singer of a pretty big band. And
drop the name. Drop the name.
It was Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach.
Okay.
And he was teasing me.
Wait, you're a Papa Roach fan?
Of course.
You'd be surprised what he's
So he's teasing me about, oh, in FIFA, you're that guy in FIFA. And I was like, oh, you're that guy from Cribs.
All right, let's not get off track here.
He was more famous from Cribs, and I was more famous in America from being on FIFA.
And it's YouTube, and it's the inclusion of all these ways you can watch all these different platforms that have made footballing more popular.
Here's where I want to take the conversation, because talking to Giorgio Furlani, that's Milan's not new CEO, but the CEO for the past 2.5 years. Remember, he was on Ahora o Nunca last summer. And I remember one of the things that really caught my attention was when he said the fact that we have Christian Pulisic and Yunus, it really opens a different market in the States for a club like AC Milan. But AC Milan is already a massive club in Mexico. They already have a big following fan base that grew on the team in the 90s. Right?
Even the 80s.
That Arrigo Sacchi Milan. And the fact now that there's a Mexican player there, and that's another thing for Santi, that's another conversation, but it really opens again the spectrum for these regions, for this CONCACAF
But now in the
region.
end, though, you still have to be successful.
You have to be.
Right?
Yes, you have to be.
I think the difference is now is the opportunity for North American players is greater. And it's like the idea of, yes, it's no longer that situation where a sporting director or a coach goes to the chairman and says, hey, I need 30, 40 million to go buy this American or this Mexican or this Canadian. It doesn't matter anymore. Well, wait a minute. Why don't you go buy a Brazilian, an Argentinian, a Dutch guy, or whatever? It doesn't matter. You're actually being judged now on your merit. And then, but that puts another responsibility on you.
But even more so for Mexico and Mao, you know this, when you think about Mexican legends and what they've done, Hugo Sanchez, Real Madrid.
For sure.
Rafa Marquez, Barcelona. Chicharito Hernandez, Manchester United. Santi becomes the fourth right there on the flag. With Milan. No, but just to move alone.
No. I disagree with you. I think he still has to be successful.
No, correct. But the Mexicans that have gotten to that type of level, that's the way they see it today. And if you look at the players, because you're always talking about Clase A, the A team, the elite of the elite. If you look at the trend of Mexican players, well, you got a West Ham in there, you got a Bournemouth in there, you got a few in Greece or whatever.
Well, you had a Bolton, you had a Stuttgart.
But it's not been since Chicharito Hernandez that you've had somebody in that type of light.
But to Casey's point, Hugo, Rafa, Chicharito, they all were successful at these clubs. They were able to thrive under pressure, right? And now that's Santi's responsibility to join a club like this and not only being an anecdote. Hey, you remember when Santi signed for AC Milan? Yeah, but then he barely scored and then he had to move to Cuomo, right? Or came back to play for Monterrey. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. 23 years old. But now we can talk about the team that he's joining. Because AC Milan They haven't been really good this season,
Right.
9th in the table. And especially, like you said, you take a look at how good Inter, Napoli, all the teams are doing.
Right.
They really wanted reinforcements during this winter transfer window.
But that team should be better.
This team should
This team
perform
should be better. Yes.
When you see Leao, Pulisic, who has been fantastic, Reinders, who's a fantastic player as well, Kyle Walker recently signed. You see this team, Herc. How does Santi fit here?
So my question is, looking at this starting 11 is, okay, where does Joao Felix come into play here? Because Joao Felix is pretty much a done deal.
Yeah.
So do you
on loan?
Do you expect Joao Felix to go on the wing and Christian Pulisic as the 10, or do you expect Joao Felix to play as that 9 position? If you're expecting Joao Felix and Santi Giménez to fight it out for the 9 position, Sergio Conceição, who is coach in Portugal, knows very well what Joao Felix can do. He's going to go with who he thinks makes the team play the best. Now, Santi Giménez is a goal scorer, and he has a lot of attributes going forward. But he's not necessarily strong at link-up play. And the way this Milan team plays, the danger zones are either through the outsides, Rafa Leao, Christian Pulisic, or to Rangers in the middle. He's a guy who's coming into his own right now. He's one of the best players they have. It's a situation where that 9 has been used to facilitate.
Right.
That's been the issue with Alvaro Morata. That's been the issue with Tammy Abraham. That's been the issue with Joe Illich when he's played. A player who was once a Real Madrid transfer, massive transfer from the Bundesliga, who's now a cautionary tale.
Right.
So how can you get the best out of Santi Giménez? That's my only hesitation, is where does he fit in this scheme?
And for me, that's what's most important when you're a manager. You don't buy a player and then try to make him fit into the scheme. You buy a player that plays the way that it fits into your scheme. And I think that's what we're going to have to find out from Conceição. Now, when you talk about the Joao Felix thing, how many chances is this kid going to get? It's worth mentioning that the manager and the player have the same agent.
Gimenez, yeah,
Okay,
that counts.
So fair enough, but that counts by getting one more chance. But at some stage, that kid's got to come good.
Yeah.
Well,
He's 25.
he's 25 and it feels like he's been around for 15 years after making that
Monster move to
from Benfica to Atletico de Madrid, but he's never been consistent. I don't feel like
good years in Atletico. He had some good moments in Atletico, but not for the price tag.
But the difference.
never a full year when you
Right.
said consummate starter.
But
never.
to the point that I was talking about, when I look at Julian Alvarez and his work rate,
Correct.
on the offense, on the defense, on whatever he needs to do, that fits a Diego Simeone side.
Correct.
You're just clink, stick him right in there.
Oh, I agree.
Where Joao Felix is not a Diego Simeone player.
And the 2 places he's been to, whether it's Atletico or it was Chelsea, and to some extent Barcelona, they were all messes. He's never been in a situation, now I'm not going to defend the kid because you're right, you command that type of price tag, it's on you as well. But certainly, you don't get to these places, you don't get to these settings if you don't have something in your bag.
Correct.
We'll see. We're going to have the chance to see if Santi is an immediate starter. He should be without Alvaro Morata and Tommy Abraham struggling this year as well. Now, let's try to book it. Let's project what we can expect from Santi Giménez, and we have set the line at 10 goals over under for Santi Giménez. All comps.
The rest of the season.
Rest of the season.
No penalties?
No, penalties are included. Of course they are.
He's not going to take them, but penalties
yeah.
Are you taking the over or the under, Casey?
I'm taking the under. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be 7, 8, 9. Kind of depends. I don't think he'll quite get to 10 just because I don't think the team is good enough. Now, next season, if you tell me that, do I think he could be a 20-goal scorer? I'd say yes.
So half a season right now, Christian Pulisic is at 12, Rangers is at 10, Morata was at 6, and Abraham was at 6 as well. That's half the season. You brought in a player for $40 million, twice the price tag of Christian Pulisic. That would be great. 10.5 goals over would be great if he got 11 in all comps right now. But what's coming up are the hardest games. You're going to have against your old club in the
Champions League, yeah.
And then you're going to have the rest of Serie A, which you are trying to push for those Champions League spots, which won't be easy, especially contending with teams like Napoli and teams like Atalanta, who can very much surprise you, a team like Inter, the rivals. I'm going to take the under as well, just because, now you mentioned the stark contrast between the Eredivisie, which is a free-flowing attacking league, and how defensive and tactical Serie A is. I not only think it's a learning curve for Santi Giménez, but also Sergio Conceição and how he's going to utilize Santi Giménez. Because of all these variables, I'm going to take the under as well.
Usually, Santi Giménez had 5-6 scoring opportunities per game at the Eredivisie. If he gets 3 in a Serie A game, that's a lot. Difference is he has to convert, has to be clinical, and use that to his advantage. What?
Over under?
Oh, I have the over. Of course I do. Alive in Coppa Italia, alive in Champions League, and in desperate need of results to climb on the table and make it top 4 in Serie A. Still, great day, fantastic day for Mexican soccer, and Santi Giménez signing for AC Milan.